Hello everybody. First of all, welcome to the 8th CITA BIM workshop. This is being organised, this 8th one is being organised by the Association of Consulting Engineers of Ireland. My name is Michael Moriarty, I'm the President of the ACI and I will be chairing this workshop. Just worth mentioning for anybody who's new to this, that this has been an extremely successful series of workshops with well over 1,000 people attending either in person or online. And this has been recognised both nationally and internationally. Today's workshop has to do with finance and insurance, and in that context we are very lucky to have as our speaker this morning Steve Bamworth of Griffith & Armour. Griffith & Armour are a leading independent construction and professional insurance brokers. They have been advisors to the ACI and Engineers Ireland on professional indemnity insurance for very, very many years. Steve is the Group Chief Executive of Griffith & Armour, and he has a long history in trying to broaden the insurance solutions in construction. He was over here in Ireland talking to us well over 6-7 years ago on his paper, Ensuring the Integrated Team. So Steve has a lot of form in this direction. Let me just show you this. And to show you this publication, I'm sure you're all very familiar with it. It's the report, the UK is the report for the Government Construction Client Group on BIM Working Party Strategy Paper, a key document which I'm sure you all have. Steve was on the working group dealing with liability and insurance. So I think we've the right man in the right place this morning. So I'd ask Steve to give us a talk. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Good morning. I am going to talk about insurance this morning, as you might expect, with me being an insurance broker, but it won't just be about insurance. It'll be about risk management, integration, and how BIM can act as a potential tool to encourage further integration within construction. Okay, I'll start with the negative, if I can call it that. The perceived PI problems that sit in and around BIM. And I say perceived because these are perceptions that were held within the PI insurance market about some of the problems that may or may not sit with BIM. But then I'll go on and look at the good, the positive aspect of BIM, which is being part of a new solution to delivering contracts successfully within construction. Okay, so some of the perceived PI issues with BIM. This is in the eyes of the PI insurance market. First of all, they need to prove blame, because individual consultancies carry PI insurance on an annual basis to cover their defaults and their negligence. And there was a perception that BIM was all about the design coming together, certainly at level 2 stage rather than level 3, with no accountability, with joint design processes. And in that context, if there were to be a joint design outcome without individual elements being capable of attaching to individual consultants, then in the event of a claim, how would individual PI insurances be triggered if no one could point the finger at an individual member of the design team and say it was your fault? So that was a perceived problem. A second perceived problem is the issue of collective responsibility. If all members of the design team have access to all of the design and one element is defective, then there could be an argument about joint and several liability. Even though it wasn't you who created that design element, you saw it and maybe should have pointed out the defect in that design. There's a big issue about BIM standards. If you go back 12 months ago when I first became really involved in BIM, there were real issues about what does BIM mean? Different people were using BIM in completely different contexts. There were no BIM standards. There were problems in terms of contract terms and how BIM is used contractually. So big concerns there. And of course, with professional negligence, it's all about consultants being measured against an industry standard, what the average engineer or architect may have done. Well, in the absence of BIM standards, and a wide-ranging understanding of what BIM meant, that would create problems as well. If you use BIM negligently, well, where's the standard? So there's a concern there. There's a concern about intellectual property rights as well, who owns the copyright in a jointly created BIM design. And there's also a real problem about over-enthusiasm. I mean, people say this is a great new tool as part of the design process, let's jump in and use it, without really understanding what BIM was all about, without understanding protocols, without appropriate training. Those were the concerns that we had 12 months ago. But working really closely with the PI market and actually educating underwriters as to what BIM at level 2 means, and the fact that you can track changes, and the fact that you can point at individual designers having responsibility for elements of the design. So where are we right now? And again, just at level 2. At level 2, the PI market is pretty relaxed about BIM. Does BIM create new risks? Potentially. Does BIM have the potential to manage more risks out of the process? Yes, I think so. And I think on balance, the positives coming out of BIM as a coordinated design mechanism will far outweigh any of the perceived problems. But time will tell. So that's where we are in terms of traditional PI. But as I said earlier, I get more excited about BIM being one of the drivers for change within construction. Now, I've been involved in the PI market for over 25 years now, and we only get directly involved in projects when they go badly wrong. And with those 25 years of experience, I think that the traditional approach to construction risks is fundamentally flawed. Because what happens right now, clients in construction, normally advised by their lawyers, and I'm not lawyer bashing this morning, they take the risks that are inherent in any construction process and turn those risks into liabilities through contract terms, which the members of the design and construction teams then have to insure insofar as they can, normally through PI insurance. And that is really flawed for a number of reasons. First of all, it's uncertain. A client in construction has only successfully transferred risk when he gets a check that doesn't bounce. And in practice, there are many reasons why that check could bounce. Contractor insolvency. The contract terms didn't actually transfer risk. The consultant is no longer around, or he's uninsured, or he has insurance, but the claim is turned down for breach of policy condition. And in any and all of those situations, the risk bounces back to the client just at the moment when he has no options other than to absorb that risk, because you can't insure a house that's already on fire. The process is also hugely inefficient. We estimate that in the round, for every £1 paid out by way of damages by PI insurers, £5 are incurred in legal and forensic costs. What a waste. It also prevents team working, because the threat of being sued, even on jobs that go well, must act as a brake on team working and innovation. Because what happens right now with one of our construction clients, if there's a problem on site, they'll report the matter to us, and what do we say straight away? Back off, don't be helpful, don't engage with the client, look to your files, look to your contract, look to your brief. So at the very moment that the client is looking for an engineering solution to an engineering problem, he's forced to go and get a legal solution to an engineering problem, and that can't make sense. It encourages defensive attitudes. It prevents positive feedback from my industry to yours, because PI insurers are in the business of looking after the interests of their clients and not acting as a free information service. And I think the current system achieves neither effective risk transfer nor effective risk management. So what do we see as the solution or a potential solution? We've been working quite closely in the UK with some leading industry players who are passionate about the use of integrated teams, truly integrated teams. So rather than having the silo mentality of the client over here, with the contractor here and the consultants here, with work being bid for on lowest price, the model involves an informed client who has either a business or social need, and that's defined. He has a certain amount of money to spend, a pot of money. There's early engagement of key specialists, and those key specialists will vary according to the needs of the job. It may be a specialist supplier, it might be a detail designer, it might be a lead contractor, but it doesn't have to be. So that team comes together at a very early stage, paid for on a cost-plus basis by the client, to devise the best possible solution to the client's need within that budget. The specifications are agreed, the target cost is agreed. The client then lets a single multi-party contract, and the design and construction team start work. But crucially, the single multi-party contract involves a provision that the client waives all rights to sue. He cannot sue the design or construction team absent fraud. Okay, so the risk is retained by the client, but what happens in practice? Well, under our proposals, we'd put in place holistic project insurance that would cover the performance of the team on that project to that specification and to that cost plan. So how might it work in practice? Let's assume we've got a straightforward job, a building, all other things being equal, there's no reason why that can't be built for £10 million. Well, we put in place an insurance program in 2 phases. In the first phase, during construction, we would cover material damage to the works, no problem there, really straightforward. But the innovative element here is that we would insure the cost plan. So £10 million target cost, to be a £500,000 deductible, and that deductible would equate to the pre-agreed pain sharing arrangement under the single contract. So up front, everyone knows what their maximum exposure is, and should the project or its finances go wrong, including the client, including funders. And the balance of any financial loss is paid for by insurers. Now, the insurance market is not over the moon about this concept. Historically, when the London market has tried to insure cost overrun, they've done so against traditional adversarial contracts, and it's been a nightmare. You know, they've lost their shirts. So we've stressed to the insurance market in London two things. A, this is a new way of working with new contracts. It's not adversarial. And B, to provide reassurance to you, the underwriter. Up front, at a very early stage of the project, we would have a technical auditor looking to make sure that the design solution is sound, and a cost consultant to make sure that the cost plan is there or thereabouts. Where are we in terms of developing this? It's been a long journey. I've been working on this for 10 years now. And the problem is that there's a lot of commercial interest from commercial developers, but insufficient interest from the insurance market to make it work. There's just insufficient cover. So we've been working quite closely with Cabinet Office in the UK to come forward with some demonstration projects to trial this in the public sector. And we have a number that will be on site in the first quarter of next year. The advantage of working with government is government has said, yes, we acknowledge that you can't get large amounts of cover at the moment. If you put some modest financial loss insurance in place, we'll take the balance of risk because we want this to work. Now, is government really interested in insurance? No, they're not. What is driving Cabinet Office in the UK is the evidence that by having integrated teams, you drive out waste from the process, you encourage innovation, and we estimate that by using integrated teams, government can save 20% of its capital cost base and improve construction times by 20%. And there have been some demonstration projects out there that have indicated that. Not using an insurance solution, but with a large client who carries the balance of risk on their own balance sheet. So government's keen, A, to create the capital savings in its own spending, but also B, to encourage a commercial insurance product that enables commercial developers to bring more things to the market as well. Interestingly, Treasury in the UK is very keen to unlock the substantial funds that are tied up in pension funds in the UK into construction. The reason that the pension funds won't do it is they hate the risk in construction. Well, if you use integrated teams and IPI, you de-risk the construction process. So there's a lot of win-wins in here. And I think that, in terms of a virtuous circle, looking at integrated teams, using BIM Level 2 as a really efficient working mechanism, underpinned by project insurance, I think that has a really, really powerful message to send. And that's what we're looking to test first quarter next year, build time 6 to 9 months. So hopefully by this time next year, we'll have tested this process and can roll it out more widely. And if you think of some of the other knock-on effects, your industry is bedeviled by arguments between contractors, clients, consultants over contract wordings. Fitness for purpose, indemnities, warranties, express guarantees, retentions, bonds. Well, in this brave new world of integrated project working, all of that falls away because the debate turns away from liability and contract terms to risk. And I think that's pretty exciting. I'm going to close there, but I'd be more than happy to take any questions that you may have.